the Lions versus Rams rematch seems to be getting kind of lost in the shuffle, if you will, with what I'm seeing in most of social media, overlooked, if you will, with the NFL Thursday night football over between the Ravens and the Chiefs. From a personal perspective, I certainly have been incredibly busy the last week. So from posting Lions videos the last 3 or 4 days, I've been unable to do so for multiple reasons. School started, the Ravens game on Thursday night, then reaction videos, film studies therein. I think the Rams rookies or additions have been minimized somewhat in terms of attention. So I want to cover that in this video. I will show some film here in a moment. Uh, I think the Lions rookies and additions have been getting the large majority of the focus, as well they should, in my opinion. But I think the Rams had a very underrated draft, and I want to point that out a little bit before we get into the film. They got two Florida State guys, Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. Also drafted Blake Corum out of Michigan. Rams drafted 5 defensive players in their first 6 picks, which is interesting to me. Cameron Kitchens, a safety hybrid guy, I think from Miami. Brennan Jackson from the West Coast. Those two are pushed down the depth chart, but they got solid potential. The offense, the O-line specifically for the Rams at this point is certainly the question mark, the relative question mark for a Rams offense that finished 2023 on a roll. 2 of their tackles are out. Well, one of them is out, their left tackle. Their right tackle, Rob Havenstein, practiced on Thursday. I think he was a limited participant both days, Thursday and Friday. I may be wrong there. Darius Williams, an extremely underrated corner, was limited practice participant Thursday. I think full participant Friday. I may be wrong on that one as well. But he's an underrated player that they brought back from Jacksonville. He had a brilliant 2023 season, if you ask me, with the Jags. Other than that, the Rams are only missing their left tackle for suspension/injury. The Lions had far less guys listed on the injury report. DJ Reader was even out there. That would be huge. I think Melifonwu's out, if I saw it correctly. Reader will be a welcome addition against this team, against this system, I should say. Under center, the Rams, Sean McVay, they want to run the football, and then they want to utilize play action to get you off balance or take advantage of you overreacting to the run. I did a video a couple of weeks ago about Sean McVay's offense, and at least in terms of how it was executed in 2023, and I expect it to remain generally consistent. The run-pass numbers, if you don't know, are totally skewed towards the run when Matt Stafford is under center, and then almost completely flipped in the other direction when Stafford is in the shotgun in terms of run pass, like 74% pass, 26% run when he's in the shotgun. When you have a guy like Reader, if he's healthy, if he's ready to go Sunday, he's a tremendous talent upgrade simply because of how dominant he can be against the run. And when you team him up with Aleem McNeil, it'll be fun to watch. Should he go out there and play if he's not completely healthy? I would say no, because he's so important to what you want to try to do and what you want to try to be. Melifonwu, the other guy, contributor. Great. It would be great to see him out on the field, but it sounds like he would be out. The Lions did not need a DJ Reader, to be honest with you, in 2023 to go out and stop the run consistently. He would just push them over the top. What I want to do today was talk about the Lions' ability to control the run game in some of the situations that I've described, basically when the Rams are under center, and then contrast that with their inability or ineffectiveness to stop the run when the quarterback is in the shotgun. Now, I don't know that necessarily relates to the Rams. That dynamic doesn't really persist with them, and I'll show some film to kind of explain that. One of the things the Lions have struggled with defensively against the run is against athletic quarterbacks. So let me rephrase that. When they have allowed more rushing yards against athletic quarterbacks who can move, and by the design of the play, can threaten away from the running back's flow. The Lions defense allowed the most rushing yards across these 3 particular games. The Week 7 loss to the Ravens. Now, the reality is Lamar Jackson only had 36 rushing yards that week, so he didn't personally contribute to it necessarily. Gus Edwards and Justice Hill accounted for 110 yards on the ground. Edwards also had an 80-yard reception out of the backfield on an RPO/play action look. The other 2 games that I'm referring to, and you know them very well, Justin Fields and the Bears, they had 325 rushing yards in their split with the Lions in 2023. 183 on the ground in Detroit's 31-26 comeback win, like 3 or 4 days before Thanksgiving. And Fields himself had 162 yards and 1 rushing touchdown across those 2 games. The rematch, obviously, in Chicago, that the Lions went up there and basically laid a dud and were unable to get the win. Do I think that athletic quarterbacks are the bane of the Lions' existence this year? No, but those 3 games being the large majority of rushing yards that they were allowed, I think sticks out and should give us some idea of when they will be most effective and when they will be not. During their 2-2 run, mid to late season, I'm talking about week 11 to week 13, the Lions gave up an average of 136 rushing yards to these 4 opponents, the Bears, Packers, and Saints. Of course, they played the Bears twice. And a lot of those concepts that they struggled with in terms of giving up more yards was stuff like this. A zone read or a pistol option play where the quarterback is a threat to the outside. They generally seem committed to running the defensive end or outside linebacker down to take away the give to the running back. In this case, it's a dive concept, downhill play. I would call it a dive. They are committed to that, or at least they have been. Aleem McNeil did miss the second Bears game here in Chicago that's showing now, but he played in the previous 3. So there was a point in time where they were not as effective. They were not as dominant stopping the run. A healthy DJ Reader and the dynamic that you're going to face against the Rams, which is totally different from an athletic quarterback standpoint, I think puts the Lions defense in a great situation to stop or slow down the run. Last year, they were able to win 1 game in that stretch where I didn't think the defense played particularly well. I'm talking about the New Orleans game. 33-28 win. They sealed it on that really critical 3rd down pass from Jared Goff to Josh Reynolds, who's since departed. One aspect that I think is worth focusing on for you as the season develops on, but not in this Rams game necessarily, is the zone read concepts. You see another example of it. Hutchinson is slamming or stepping down here with the running back. Fields keeping it and then getting out to the edge, or at least to the inside. You got an arc release that's kind of expanding Brian Branch. It's a missed tackle for Jack Campbell. These are concepts that were the way that they played them consistent across the year. How does it relate to the Rams? Well, you're not going to see this. But what you will see, particularly under center, is you will see run action from a running back who's set behind the quarterback in one direction, and then the quarterback booting off of it. So you still have that same type of conflict. It's just the time period at which you are in conflict as a defensive end, outside linebacker, or edge defender is elongated, and maybe they're less abrupt and less distinct with this step, with this angle. And in fact, they are. Oftentimes they'll slow play it. Against shotgun quarterbacks, runs by quarterbacks, I should say, they are forcing a keep read almost exclusively. Don't think that'll be a factor against the Rams, to be honest with you, but that's my point. Against a Rams team that is missing 1 offensive tackle, maybe even 2, they are in a unique situation, in my opinion, to be able to slow down this run game potentially. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Maybe Stafford keeps it once or twice around the edge, but you're not going to see these types of things repeatedly. The Rams offense is very multifaceted. They rely on the under center run game and play action stuff. The shotgun is very different. These are not concepts you're generally going to see. Happens to be a keep by Lamar, and then an RPO. It's almost a quadruple option, if you will. Rams are under center. They got big names, obviously Stafford, Nakua, Cooper Kupp. He's reliable. He's great in the clutch. I really like the running back Kyron Williams. I think he ran for over 1,100 yards last year. Perhaps they're hamstrung a little bit by both of these tackles missing, or at least one of them missing, and then the other one potentially being compromised. But the injury report generally looks clean. Otherwise, I think the Rams come in intent on scoring points. I think they've got to get to 27 or above, in my opinion. Unless the Rams' front 6, front 7 is extremely devastating and produces a lot of pressure on Jared Goff and stops the run, I think the Rams are coming in to try to score points, and I think they need to in order to lead Detroit with a win. DJ Reader playing is the big question for me, because duo and inside runs, they're not going to beat the Lions on stuff like this consistently, if you ask me. They're very fast, particularly at the nickel position with Brian Branch there when he is. I think this is a Brian Branch nickel game, in my opinion. I know that there's been much talk about him in the offseason being a, quote, safety at the 3rd level. Reader could destroy or disrupt a lot of this stuff where you have combo or double team blocks initially. Because what happens is if you combo up too quickly, and I'm talking about this offensive lineman right here, then DJ Reader will maintain balance and he will win, to the front side. Doesn't necessarily happen here on this play. We're talking about a different team and a different player. Justin Madubuike is a badass, just like DJ Reader in some ways, but he excels at splitting double teams. Maybe splitting double teams isn't the right word. Recognizing the block and responding with violent intentions at the point of attack and disrupting the running back's path. I hope he's healthy. Maybe not this week, but another week. And you, as a Lions fan, can see for yourself what I'm talking about. Hopefully I'm not wrong. I wouldn't want to be wrong because, A, no one wants to be wrong in terms of his effectiveness and his ability to impact the game. But I wouldn't want to be wrong for you because I wouldn't want to see the Lions' defensive ceiling, the Lions' defensive potential be capped at all, because I think they've got tremendous possibility to be far improved from last year. I'm talking about allowing sub 20 points per game. Reader also impacts the game this way. He gives the Rams' offensive staff, Mcvay, something to consider when calling an interior run play. With him on the field on 1st and 10, he will give them pause. I think it's a pivotal thing to discuss, or at least to consider, is that he will give the offensive coordinator pause when he's on the field. The Rams are going to be in 11 personnel, sometimes in compressed formations. You may say, Coach, well, the Ravens are loading the box. Yeah, you do have a nickel defender in Kyle Hamilton and a rolled-up corner. I generally like to talk about what we see right here from an O-line, tight end, and defensive front standpoint. The Ravens have moved the nickel defender in, so they've got 7 players. If I was able to magically erase him, what I like to talk about 11 personnel is 7 gaps created by the Rams. And defensively, your 4-2 only generally gives you 6 players to defend it. That is not actually the dynamic here as Kyle Hamilton is in the screen, but DJ Reader is a guy who can play 2 gaps or 1.5 gaps even when he's not asked to. The tight end creates that 7th gap against your 4-2 front, which obviously 4 plus 2 only equals 6. I think Brian Branch can do the same thing that Kyle Hamilton does. Brian Branch being at the nickel position, DJ Reader being on the field at defensive tackle, I think puts this Rams team offense in a real bind. It really makes it almost a 7 or 7.5 man front from a conceptual standpoint. I have no idea if he plays, but he's going to win at the point of attack. I've talked about him a lot, but I watched him with the Bengals cause a ton of problems for the Ravens, and that's why I have a high opinion of him. Switching sides of the ball in this preview, one thing I can't wait to see, I'm sure you're in the same boat, is the young corners compete. Rakestraw, Arnold, even Amik Robertson. He's 26, and he's been in the league for a while. So, and obviously Carlton Davis III does not count as a rookie player, but he's new for the Lions. He's a veteran. He's going to get a lot of snaps. My guess would be on the left-hand side of the defense with Arnold on the right. But they have options. Branch, Kirby Joseph. Melifon will apparently, will not play. But Amik Robertson can play nickel or slot corner. It's the same thing for me. I don't really make a difference between them. I think you should be optimistic from a defensive standpoint about the first, second, and third level. McVay has a system that's going to allow him to adjust. So whatever look you throw out there, he'll be able to adjust to. I think the talent is such in Detroit on defense now that you don't need to be in the same look consistently because of the limitations of some of your players. You can be more versatile, more multiple, because the guys you have in coverage are better and more talented than the players you had last year, Cam Sutton and Kendall Vildor, among others. I do think that some of the pick-rub concepts that McVay uses, he does those things to get them open with less effort, meaning that, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, those guys, Demarcus Robinson, they can win against man, don't get me wrong, but they don't have to be as good on a particular play when there's pick or rub concepts that help them get open. I am looking forward to the Lions being more multiple in this way, showing zone and then playing man, or showing man and then playing zone. And that dynamic I didn't think was utilized a ton last year. I'm going to use this play to close it out. This is an important possession or important play, It ends up being a tackle for loss by Kendall Vildor. on a third down. So you hold the Rams to a field goal after this, I believe. And they end up playing zone, but it looked like man pre-snap. And that's my point about the secondary players and even your inside linebackers and nickel defenders. What you have here, and I've talked about this play before in other videos, so forgive me if this is repeat content for you. Brian Branch is a safety / nickel in 2023. He's currently lined up on the outside. Your outside corner to that side, Cam Sutton, since with the Steelers, is lined up on the inside, so making it look like man. Branch on Cup, which is a good matchup for the Lions. Nakua being guarded by Sutton, which didn't work out in the Lions' favor, obviously, last year. I think Nakua had 193 and a touchdown. And then the tight end being guarded by Anzalone. Vildor looks like he's man on Demarcus Robinson down here at the bottom. Too high safety look. And an inside linebacker keying the running back certainly looks like two-man or potentially some type of robber. Post-snap, the Lions do a great job of getting to a cover 2 zone. 5 under defenders. Vildor's a little closer than the other 4. I mean, he's a little closer to the line of scrimmage, but 5 under defenders. 2 deep safeties. There is a pressure element here by Hutchinson against the right tackle. Stafford has to escape. Ends up going to his running back out in the right flats. I think this is important. Not just this play, but the idea that you now have more versatility to show a particular look pre-snap and then post-snap play a different look. I also think that the pick and rub concepts, if you show man, you almost kind of elicit that concept from the Rams. Stafford is very smart. Sean McVay obviously is as well. He's well coached. They are on the same page. And I think there's times where if you show man, you get an idea from them that they're going to run a pick or rub concept and then drop out to zone thereafter. The pick or the rub doesn't work. That's not really what happens here on this play, but hopefully I'm saying this in a way that makes sense. You can give Stafford some pause post-snap, not confused, because confused is a poor choice of words. Like, these dudes are brilliant football players, these quarterbacks in the NFL, with the amount of information they have to process, the speed at which they have to process it, while worrying about their own physical harm as defensive linemen and linebackers are blitzing and attacking them to get the sack. So I don't like to say confused because I feel like that's a little judgy. But give them pause, delay their processing, force them to hold on to the ball and get to their second or third read. I do think that, and I will address this a little bit in the reaction video after Sunday night's game, which I will be covering. I do think that there's a lot of times where Stafford knows where he's going with the football. That dynamic exists across much of the NFL. Offensive coordinators, quarterback coaches, staffs scheme up or create pass plays, and they pretty much know who's going to be open against a particular coverage. That gets back to my point that I've been talking about for the last 5 minutes. Showing one coverage, playing another, is something that I think you will do more often in 2024. It could help the pass rush. It could give another 0.3 seconds, 0.4 seconds, or maybe even a half a second for a defensive end, defensive tackle, or blitzing linebacker to get there and organically create another 6, 8, 10 sacks in 2024 because the coverage was better on the back end. I'm content and fine if someone wants to explain it another way. The pass rush leads to better coverage. I think both of those things are true. Both of those statements are true. For me, the talent upgrades in the defensive backfield, yes, I know Carlton Davis III is a man corner. I know Amik Robertson played a lot of man with the Raiders, but he's got great zone instincts if you ask me. Terrion Arnold, I think, is a balanced corner, equally good at either one. I understand that people make judgments to call someone a man corner, a zone corner, whatever. I think you're going to be able to play so many coverages that quarterbacks will have to hold on to the ball a little bit longer, and that will lead to more pressures and more sacks than you've seen in recent years. I'm comfortable if you do not agree with that statement. We're going to find out on Sunday night. This is my, I think, second or third preview of the Lions-Rams rematch. Let me know what you think of the plays that I picked to talk about primarily the Lions defense. If you're interested, I have considered doing live streams recently. I would like to do them on Saturday mornings, a Ravens live stream and then a Lions live stream. If you enjoy that type of content, let me know. If there's other Lions content creators or media that's out there on Saturday mornings that I'd be overlapping with, I don't think I'd want to do that in terms of split a fan base, number one, or number two, minimize the potential audience that I could grab just to be selfish. Let me know if you know of other content that's out there. If you've listened this long, thank you, and that's why I wait till the end to usually do these type of spiels. I do have a Lions Patreon that leads to or gives you access to a Discord community, a private Lions community where we can discuss things, pick up and play, meaning you don't feel the need to have to respond instantly or argue with people on social media. Number one, because there's no trolls, there's no anti-Lions fans in there. Number two, everyone I think is discussing things from a good-natured platform and trying to understand, myself included, trying to understand things about the team, about the scheme, about certain plays. Selfishly, it is a fun community for me to interact with on YouTube and on Twitter, but the Discord is where it's at for me because I get to know people and discuss things long term over the course of the season. And we can refer back to previous conversations about the Lions from 2023 or 2022, which is about as far back as I can have conversations fluently. Anything before 2022 is pretty much beyond my purview and when I started to cover the Lions. So forgive me for the little advertisement at the end. I always hold it till the end so the people in the beginning don't have to listen to it. Thank you guys for your time. If you enjoyed the video and you think other Lions fans would enjoy it as well, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.